Philistine army taunted the Israelites, a giant nearly 10 feet tall stepped out of line towards the Israelites. This was Goliath of Gath. He wore bronze helmet, bronze armor, and a bronze sword, and his shield bearer walked in front of him. He carried a spear that weighed 15 pounds and was as big as a fence rail.
So Goliath basically stepped out and he called out the Israelite army. He was like, what, am I not enough for you? Why bother fighting with all these battles? And he actually, he challenged them to a showdown of sorts, right? He said, you know what? You guys send out your best guy and he and I will fight it out together. If he wins, all of the Palestinians will become your servants. If I win and I kill your guy, then all of the Israelites will become our servants. And when Saul and his troops heard this, they were crushed. They didn't think that they had anyone that could beat Goliath.
Enter David, son of Jesse. Now David was the youngest of 8 brothers, and 3 of them were already fighting in this war. David spent his time attending to King Saul while tending his father's sheep in Bethlehem. And every morning for 40 days, Goliath stood there making the same taunting speech to the Israelites.
So one day Jesse took his son David and gave him some supplies for the war front. He sent some wheat and some bread and told David to go check in on this war that was raging in Oak Valley, deliver this food to his brothers there, and bring back word of how the battle is going, how his sons are doing, how King Saul is doing, and how the Israelite army was doing in that battle.
One morning, David woke up at the crack of dawn to head to the battle lines with this food that he was taking to his brothers. As he got there, he left the food with the canteen and he went to meet his brothers on the battle line as Israel were forming to fight. Goliath stepped out of line to make his usual speech of the day.
And when they heard this, the Israelites were struck with fear, and they said things to each other like, have you ever seen this before? Someone so bold as to challenge the Israelites this way. Whoever manages to defeat Goliath is certainly going to be celebrated in our nation. The king will grant his daughter in marriage, will shower this person with rewards, all kinds of things. There was a lot at stake here for the Israelite people, and they knew that whoever could champion and defeat Goliath would be well taken care of.
While David was talking to the men on the front line of the battlefield, David wanted to know precisely what was in it for the man that got rid of Goliath.
So David's older brother saw him standing there talking to the troops, and well, you know, as older brothers sometimes do, he got a little upset and started poking fun at David, and he like challenged him. He's like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you at home taking care of the sheep like you're supposed to, like a good little boy? In fact, I know what you're here to do. You're just here for a show. You want to see some blood spilled. So in typical little brother fashion, David was like, what's your problem? All I was doing was asking a question. And so David ignored his brother and turned around and started talking to the troops again.
As David was inquiring about what was going on, Saul got word and sent for David. As they were speaking, David said, Saul, don't give up hope. We can do this. I will go and fight this giant Philistine. Saul looked at David. It said, you, little boy, are too young and inexperienced. Goliath has been fighting and killing his whole life. You are just a boy. You can't do anything.
So David answered back. He said, listen, back home I'm a shepherd. I take care of my father's sheep. And this happens all the time. Lions, bears, they come in and they grab a sheep. And when that happens, I chase it down and I knock it and I take the sheep back. And if that bear turns on me, I grab it by the neck and I do it in. I kill it. This is what I do. I don't care if it's a bear or a lion, no matter what, I can do it. And I'm going to do the same to this Goliath joker that's calling us out. It's not right. I can do it. The same God that protects me from the bears and lions is going to protect me from Goliath. So Saul was moved by this little speech and he replied, may God protect you.
So Saul outfitted David with the best armor that he could find. The best helmet, the best elbow pads, the best chest armor, everything. But David could not even walk with all that armor. He said, I can't move, I can't do anything. So he took it all off.
David went to the brook and he grabbed 5 smooth stones. He stuck them into his pack and he grabbed his shepherd's sling and headed for Goliath. So when Goliath's shield bearer saw David coming, he sneered at him. He thought this was a big joke.
As Goliath saw David approaching, Goliath sat back and said, am I a dog that you come at me with a stick? I'm gonna ruin your day.
So David came back at Goliath and said, you know what? You come at me with swords and spears, but I come at you in the name of God, the God of Israel, the God of these armies. I'm about to kill you and cut your head off and serve your body up to the coyotes, bruh. After today, the whole world is going to know that there's an extraordinary God in Israel. He's about to serve you up.
This roused Goliath, and Goliath took off towards David, and David took off towards Goliath. They each left their battle lines, running towards each other. And as David approached Goliath, he reached into his pocket and grabbed a stone and slung it towards Goliath, hitting him hard in the forehead. It hit so hard that the rock embedded deep in Goliath's head, and Goliath went down with a crash. And this is how David killed Goliath.
This is where our story takes an even darker turn. David, now seeing that Goliath has been slain in battle, walks up and draws a sword and finishes what he said he was going to do. He cuts off Goliath's head. Now the Philistines, seeing this, seeing that their great mighty champion had been defeated, were terrified. They scattered, they ran, they fled for their lives.